Hello, everybody, and welcome to again a slightly different thing that we're doing today in Travelusion Tours. This is, of course, your host, Dr. Lillian Cespedes Gonzalez, as usual. And once again, I am bringing you to a part of my home region of Cantabria in Spain that I don't think a lot of people get to explore, but that I grew up with and that I think is just quintessential to Cantabria. When people come to Cantabria, they know that we have two things to provide: la montaña, the mountain, and the marina, the sea. So we are now doing a walk of about 20 minutes. It's not a full walk in the sense of I've not been taping the full time. There are breaks in the area of La Arnia, which is, or at least the area that will take us to La Arnia, which is part of the UNESCO Global Geopark called La Costa Quebrada, which essentially kind of translates as the broken or jagged coastline. And I think you guys are gonna see why that is. Well, just so you guys understand, the walk that I did overall was about an hour and a half, give or take, of which we have only 20 minutes. One of the reasons for that is because, well, as you can see, this is the pathway, and this is the best the pathway gets as you walk through. We're gonna be walking on top of cliffs, on top of bushes that are not necessarily very gimbal friendly. And more importantly, I did this walk with my family, and as I'm sure you've just seen, a very happy border collie is following us around. So my dear Truco, which is my parents' rescued border collie, every so often makes an appearance, and you have to pet him and take care of him and that kind of stuff. So I could not just film on the go for the whole hour and a half. It would be a bit too much and a bit insane. But this is essentially the best of the footage of that walk. So, the random people that you see on the camera are my family, our dog, and you don't really get to see me except my muddy shoes every so often because, well, just to prove that we were doing this. So, let me tell you about La Costa Quebrada and the beautiful landscapes that you are going to be experiencing throughout this walk and why this is so important for Cantabria. And well, here you can see another reason why I couldn't be filming this for the whole hour and a half. Sometimes I actually needed my hands to get through the actual landscape. Well, so like I was saying, this area is actually recognized as UNESCO. We have also some local street art, I guess, not necessarily the top caliber, but it's one of those places where kids go to practice normally. But UNESCO has recognized this as one of the areas for the network of global geoparks all across the world because, well, this is an area that spans for, I think, is over 10 miles, full of, these super epic sort of cliffs, the rock formations, which are very, very peculiar and that are quite evocative. And not just that, on top of the actual importance that it has from the point of view of its geology, it's again been an area that has been crucial for the development of Cantabria, because although Cantabria is called La Montaña in terms of the mountain, it's also nothing without its maritime development. So that's essentially what we're walking. So the full stretch, which we're not doing overall, goes from the Bay of Santander, normally Santander itself, all the way to the area of Cuchilla or Puerto Calderón, give or take. And everything that you're seeing is actually a geological process which has been essentially developed in millions of years of the Earth's history. The actual regional government and overall tourism ministry actually has guided tours of this area from the geological point of view, because this is what we call geology in action. La Costa Quebrada is constantly, although slowly, changing because of the thorough and impactful action of the Cantabrian Sea. So it's although it's nothing new in terms of course you can see events like this in other parts of the world, hence why there is a global geopark network. In Cantabria, the let's say geographical development is just so obvious. It's very difficult for you to miss the impact of not just the water but everything else that goes to create these very interesting landscapes. And here comes the border collie once again. Hello, Trupo. Thank you so much for for making making an appearance. Well, let me give you some more details about this area and why it matters so much. So we're actually entering the area of covachos or covachos too, because the different parts of the landscape have different names depending on the beach or cliff area where we are at. So we are in the area of covachos, and this is considered covachos too. So here you can see as we approach the map the different areas where you can see different geological developments. All of these panels have actually been done with a lot of work and serious care, because believe it or not, we do have actually a lot of people interested in geology that come to the region of Cantabria and require this information. In fact, UNESCO is very much pushing for this to become an important element in the development of Cantabria to bring more tourists and promote the idea of sustainable tourism, which is, of course, important for our local community, but also for the environment. I cannot emphasize, guys, how important is environmentalism in the region of Cantabria. If you've seen also my tour of Peñacabarga, this is also applicable to that. Cantabria every year suffers from fires. Some of them are wildfires because of climate change and the increase in temperatures, which we are not used to. As you can see, we're an evergreen blue landscape, but also often from fires that are provoked either by the locals, normally people who are in the world of agriculture, because the expansive agriculture in Cantabria can be sometimes quite damaging, or by people who go to the mountain or who go to natural areas like this and who do not respect the environment. So by creating these special spaces, UNESCO is hoping to, first of all, educate people about the value of nature, which I think in beautiful places like this, one really can, I guess, get behind if you are not that inclined. And secondly, try to also provide of a different kind of tourism, which perhaps is not the most frequented. Now, in the north of Spain, in Cantabria specifically, and around the area of the Bay of Santander, we are lucky because we have some beautiful, lovely beaches, but you cannot have those beautiful, lovely beaches without the drastic landscape that you're seeing here. So I guess what the whole project is trying to do is to promote people to come and engage with these completely off the beaten path areas. So that the locals can also live off a tourism which is not completely devastating. The world of mass tourism in Spain is causing a lot of damage to the country, as well as, of course, having an important economic presence. But sometimes we don't realize how damaging mass tourism is, not so much for the economy, but for other things which eventually will be related to the economy. So this is a way of essentially opening up a market that should help the locals improve and maintain this area, but also, educate many others in what they have to offer, which is a very important labor and something that people from Cantabria feel, is very important. And well, you're gonna see now in the camera my feet showing you how sincerely hard this walk is. Part of the problem that we have in Cantabria is that although we have a lot of nature, and actually in Spain we're very proud of indicating our pathways and things like that very well, is that, well, some of these places aren't even well visited by the locals. So the degree of maintenance or the ability for people to know the state of these pathways is not always the best. So that's also the reason why education and sustainability come in here. And well, we're now moving into the area of Covachos Uno, so the first part of the walk. In reality, we're actually doing the walk backwards. There are different places where you can join the same pathway, and we are kind of doing it backwards because, the biggest problem that I think a lot of people have to access this part of not just Cantabria, but many places, in the world that are related to geology, nature, etc., is accessibility. Unless you know this is there, you're not necessarily going to go there. And this is not an area that you can get to through public transport. You definitely need a car, and you need to leave that, of course, in a car park of some kind, and then do the route on foot or on bike. The trail is actually done in such a way that you're supposed to be able to come here with mountain biking, which is a popular sport in Cantabria. But well, as you can see, and as we move through the general development of the of the video, well, you're gonna notice that as you are seeing my dad in the process, these cliffs actually get down to the beach. In fact, sometimes you are able to walk through to the beach and go down the shore properly, but the water is so fierce and you need to be really careful with the high and low tide that, well, it was definitely a no today. But this is a spot, for example, that is also very popular for water sports. One of the other reasons why La Costa Quebrada wants to promote the idea of sustainable tourism is because water sports are very important to the culture of Cantabria. Not just sailing, but we're talking of surfing, windsurfing, etc. Smaller beaches and sort of water areas like these have become very popular for training in these sports, because I'm sure you realize this beach that we're just seeing here in the area of Covachos, they aren't huge, they aren't massive, they aren't necessarily the places where tourists from Madrid come every other weekend to go and hang out. But in the summer months, they can be particularly popular with locals who are trying to run away from the key spots that get very busy with tourists, and more importantly, people that are involved in the whole idea of water sports. So as you can see, there are different ways in which we can utilize these spaces, but we need to be aware of the dangers, of the damage, and of the things that we need to improve to, of course, make them sustainable. Well, one of the other reasons why a lot of people started coming to the Costa Quebrada is something that I think, particularly if you're from the UK and you're from the south of England, you may find some relatability. In the south of England, we have an area called the Jurassic Coast, and La Costa Quebrada has some similarities in here. It is in the Geopark. There have actually been known to find many fossils, and sometimes the people that come in here are interested in that kind of idea of fossil hunting. In fact, there is a piece that is very, very iconic, which is called the Micraster, which is like a heart-shaped sort of sea urchin, which was living in this area during the Cretaceous, if I remember correctly, and under the water in the muddy areas. So as you see, when I mean that it's geology, I don't mean just the actual rock formations and that kind of stuff. It's the way that all of this has been impacting the natural development of the actual region. And well, here is Truco being a very, very good boy and wanting to be the superstar of this show. He loved the fact that I was doing weird things with the gimbal in any case. Now, let's get back to the actual tour and let me tell you a bit more about this area. Well, we're starting to move further and further away from the actual coast and into the sort of the area of the villages, because I'm sure you've noticed there is a few houses here and there, but all of this area of Cantabria is what we essentially already consider rural Cantabria. So a lot of the people who live in here are sort of not just responsible for keeping the area nice and pretty, but they are the main people who engage with it and those who kind of started part of the initiative in that sense. In fact, the idea of the Geopark is actually a social, a civil society kind of initiative in that sense. So, it comes from the people with the idea of providing, like I said, not just cultural developments and economic developments, but strategies for people to respect the landscape, way of life, and all that stuff. It's very difficult to really home this in unless you come from an area that is all about their natural spaces. In Cantabria, particularly, not just in the coast, but all throughout the region, like I said, the landscape makes its people, and it's a hard thing. Coastal communities like the areas that we're visiting throughout La Costa Quebrada, and I'm sure you guys can probably realize this from the strength of the sea, which, well, you can see on the screen just now, have always suffered tragedies. Maritime tragedies are hard, even in our current society. Consider that these cliffs would have seen ships come in and out because of the Bay of Santander and the huge importance that it's had for the Castilian Navy for the longest time. So it is an element that you have very present in your mind and that you really cannot, get away from in many ways. So if I'm banging a lot about it, it's because genuinely it matters a lot. But like I said, it's kind of like a shared initiative. So it's not just about the cultural uses, of course, the enjoyment of the geological heritage. So since 2015, some kind of co-op-like agreement has been created between different institutions, organizations, and whatnot that actually share the principles of the Geopark. So there is 3 different local councils that are actually involved in the development of all of these, plus different departments of the regional government in Cantabria, which have kind of come together to actually sign the relevant agreements to put things together and promote the area. The University of Cantabria as well has a very important role in the development of the framework, not just for cooperation, but of course to develop the right strategies to keep the area well, to use this for academic and educational purposes, and what have you not. And now let me give you some details about geology, which perhaps you are not very into, but I actually think is quite interesting. You see, Cantabria, like many parts of our world, wasn't always the way we see it now. A huge part of this was actually terrain submerged underwater. And as a result, that's why a lot of the looks of it is different. In fact, the area of the Costa Quebrada was actually near the coast of some of the many tropical islands that actually start coming through in the Great Sea of the Mesozoic area. So imagine this. Imagine an area like Cantabria in the Atlantic Sea actually being developed nearby, tropical landscapes. That's the reason why perhaps it looks a little bit fairy tale-like. As a result, this has been a body of water that was part of the old Tethys Sea that separated Africa from Europe. So that's why it looks not just evocative, but why it has very interesting shapes and formations that you perhaps cannot see in other parts. So like I said, in that submerged area, there's going to be a lot of sediment that doesn't just come from the sea itself. In Cantabria, we have a lot of rivers, short rivers, but quite powerful nonetheless, and that come from the inland. And this, by the way, we're now entering the area of La Casuca, which receives this name because of the kind of tiny island, well, not so tiny island that you see in the sea, which kind of has the shape of like a house, like a manor house in Cantabria, which, the word for house in Spanish is casa, but with our local dialect, we call it a casuca, like a small little charming house. Well, like I was saying, these rivers actually bring a lot of sediments that are going to start eroding and also creating different biological areas in here. And all of these took place over 125 million years, where all of the different layers have been arranging themselves. That's the reason why when you're looking at the stones and at the rocks, it's not just the kind of karstic landscape that you expect to see in the interior of Cantabria. It has like different layers of clay, different colors, and things that don't necessarily look like what a lot of people also expect to find in this part. And of course, the other important thing is that, as you are seeing, it's not just the landscape of the cliffs. This creates different biological environments that we need to protect. All of these coastline is a very important ecological marine environment, not just for the creatures that live in the sea, but for all of these, areas full of the prairies and what have you not. So from the point of view of the richness of the local wildlife, this is also a very important, development from a more biological perspective, not so much geological in that sense. But well, the two come together. And now we are already facing the area towards Santander, by the way. If you are seeing all of that agglomeration of houses and whatnot, this is already starting to come together with the area of San Juan de la Canal, Liencres, and then Santander. So then you also get to see the difference between the Atlantic, that's the Cantabrian Sea, and then the sort of interior towards the Bay of Santander, which creates, well, I think quite a diverse panorama in many ways. So as you can see, this is again a peculiar, different kind of tour, a hike, a kind of nature walk, kind of nature documentary, environmental activism, whatever you want it. But it is, like I said, a very, very important part of the heritage of my people, and I really wanted to share with you guys. So this is one of the special things that I wanted to do for our 1,000 viewers reach in YouTube, and I hope that you have enjoyed it. I would have loved to actually done this live as well, but the signal out there is not the greatest. And not just that, if there is one thing you take from this, is the following, and take this from somebody who has lived by the sea and the mountains her whole life. Nature, the earth, is something that we all share, and it's beautiful. So if you're not able to always get out there, I hope that these few moments of greenery, beautiful waters and whatnot inspire you to enjoy the beautiful earth that we have, even in these dark times. You know, the earth is beautiful, even if we humans don't always make it so. The earth is wonderful. Have a lovely day and take very good care of yourselves. Bye bye.